Divorce and Infidelity Part 2. She's not an evil person. She's just someone who is damaged and extremely immature emotionally who makes some very unhealthy choices that end up ruining those around her. I can almost hear you wondering why I'm being so soft on her. But here's why. It takes emotional energy to have a bad opinion of someone. You get angry or upset or whatever when you think of them. And you just keep thinking of them. And every time you think of them you have an emotional response to them. You remind yourself what a bad person they are and what they have done, and you get upset all over again. Not only does that take energy that you could be using far more productively, but all the time you're stuck in this cycle of thinking and reacting and getting upset, you are actually clinging on to that person. Far better to let them drift off quietly, thinking neither particularly well nor particularly badly of them, and not investing any of your emotions at all in maintaining your view of them, or thinking about them too much. Just let them go. Easier said than done, of course, but that's my aim. I'm really just having a bit of fun with other man, as well as putting a blocking move on him to stop him coming back again. I just want him off the playing field, hopefully in a ditch somewhere, feeling very sorry for himself and scared of exposure. Having arranged for him to be sent a message saying that he had broken up someone else's marriage, I did wonder for a second about doing the same to my STBXW. Getting someone to send her a message asking whether she thought about the damage she was doing to his family. 2 reasons not to. 1. Outcome is too unpredictable. If I do something, I want to ensure that I can take advantage of it rather than just doing something purely to hit the guilty. And if I can't predict the reaction, then I can't capitalize on it. 2. I am still not absolutely sure about his family status. I called her on the emotional and physical affair this morning. She came home last night with a face like thunder and was dark and broody all evening. Frightened the kids. I thought she knew that I knew. Anyway, the conversation was a classic of walk-away wife denial, blame shifting and rewriting of history. Although her ice-cold tone throughout was, well, chilling. She said that it was just a friendship. She had done nothing wrong. There was nothing wrong or inappropriate about it, and that she didn't even understand why I was getting upset about it. I said that our marriage didn't stand a chance whilst she was pouring her heart out to piece of crap, and that I had no way of improving things when she was telling him and not me about everything that was wrong in our marriage. She said our marriage was already dead at that point anyway, something that was very much not the case based on conversations with friends that she was having at the time, and that I have subsequently learnt of. Shrugs and denial. I knew what to expect from all my reading on here, but I still just couldn't believe it. I repeated something I had said before, that she had had an emotional affair. I told her to Google it. She turns around and says that she already had and that there is no such thing. She then coldly informs me that the law doesn't recognize an yêus, so that it doesn't matter. She then claims that her AP is now hassling her and that she has threatened to contact the police. I know her well enough to know that behind that frosty exterior is a whole world of pain. A little later she was giggling with my daughter and singing along loudly and brightly to pop songs. It was classic I'm pretending I'm okay even though I'm not behavior. I was just sitting there and listening, thinking a lot of this is for my benefit, but I know you're in so much pain inside right now. I'm ashamed to admit that part of me was, well, not exactly glad but satisfied, if that makes sense, to know that she was suffering. During the conversation I also let her know that this was the final straw as far as I was concerned and that I was through with her. She pretended she didn't care, said that we were already getting divorced anyway, so what difference did it make? But I would like to think that rejection still hurts, and that when you go from being the one doing the rejecting to being the one who is rejected, then everything changes. That's what lies behind the 180. Maybe I'm kidding myself, but the thought makes me feel better. Speaking of 180, I stepped that up last night. I put a series of post-it notes on my wall with things that I am going to do for myself. It's not in her face, but she will see it at some point, probably quite soon. But it's not just for show. The fact that I know that she will have seen it means that I have to follow through. And every time I do follow through on something on the list, then both she and I will know that I have just taken another step away from her and another step into my future. Oh, another piece of breathtaking denial. She confirmed that he does have a wife and kids. So, I said that I hoped that she was glad that her actions were in danger of ripping apart 2 families. But no, apparently nothing she has done has damaged his family at all. On the other hand, if I name him in the divorce, then apparently I will be responsible for destroying his marriage. Someone slap me, please. I keep finding myself trying to convince myself that I am overreacting and that the yêus was just a harmless friendship. He was in a different country and they were just texting each other from a distance, so where is the harm with that? Please shoot me and remind me how corrosive an yêus is for a marriage, how trust has been breached, how damaging all the secrecy is, how for every notch the AP goes up in the WS's estimation, the poor old H or W goes down 3 notches, and that trying to convince you that it was all just innocent, and somehow your fault for not being there, which isn't true anyway, is simply the latest in a long line of lies and manipulations. Please tell me that, because I'm typing those words, my brain knows that they are true and yet still somehow keep veering towards thinking that there was no real harm in it. Also, How long before a WW begins to come out of denial and to admit to herself that the yêus was emotionally significant to her? That it played a part in the downfall of the marriage, that it was an active choice that she made, and not an accident or something that she was forced into? And that it was hurtful and deceitful? Or will she just stonewall and say that she did nothing wrong and that I am pathetic to be upset about it? Actually, she won't have the chance to keep saying that because I am not going to raise it again. 180 all the way. I don't really know what she is doing, and I'm not really sure that she does either. I think that she is pulled in both directions, with the overwhelming tide going out. She called me today on a small housekeeping matter that could easily have been dealt with by text. If we had had an argument in our pre-crisis life, then making that call would have been an overture. Reaching out to me to say I'm sorry and I want to be friends again without actually having to say those words. Too frightening to her to admit she is sorry without knowing that she is forgiven. Clearly, it's not that in this case, but it is a form of reaching out. I did the whole 180 things, kept it friendly and businesslike, and got her off the phone like I would a pesky salesman. But I would like to think that she is feeling a bit of remorse and that there is still some tenderness in her heart for me. No one likes to feel that they mean absolutely nothing to another human being. She's angry and unreasonable tonight. Oh, thank you, my former love. You being a hatchet-faced, miserable old bee really helps me to get over you. Why is she angry and unreasonable? Well, she emailed me mid-afternoon informing me that she was going out on a particular evening. I emailed back asking whether this was her way of asking me whether I would be available then to look after the kids. Cue overreaction, sense of humor failure, and over the top. I've no signed up with a babysitting agency, so going out will never be a problem. All you had to do was ask politely. Not that hard, is it? Was I really that much of a walkover when we were married? Not sure I was, but I'm certainly not now. It really is over now. So, she lies in bed last night for 2 hours quite blatantly texting some other guy. Finally, just after midnight, when I have been trying to sleep for 45 minutes, I grab the phone. Big bust up. Ugly words, mostly from me. I refuse to give the phone back. She says that this is threatening and intimidating behavior. Eldest child hears, gets incredibly upset. Anyway, after everything calms down after some considerable time and we lie in bed together and start talking, she paints this picture of me as a horrible, intimidating, controlling freak. Apparently, I control the length of her skirts, might have made a comment once. And where she goes and who she sees. Isn't it normal that married couples tell each other what they're up to? She says she's willing to take her portion of the blame, but quite clearly the victim chair puts all the blame on me. Oh, and she said that she might have changed her mind if only I had wished her a happy birthday. Now let's get this thing over and done with and move on. I think I'm nearly ready for that. The irony is that my STBXW is the one that says that she wants freedom, but I know that she will crash and burn with it. She will have very little money, and although she dreams of finding the love of her life, in fact her heart is so closed off that all she can do is suck love out of someone else rather than really loving someone in return. And as soon as things get a bit rocky, then all the closing down patterns that I lived with in our marriage will return and the guy will run a mile. I used to be like that, but I have learned to love myself and therefore to risk my heart. She can't even connect with her own kids during this very difficult time. It's heartbreaking. I'm just a little worried about money. My financial situation is not very stable at the moment, but I have no incentive to go out and find a well-paid job just at the moment. But I will cope and I will survive. I will breathe the air of freedom and I will flourish. The irony is that she thinks she has really changed and that she is just getting rid of the negative things and people in her life, like the marriage and me, in order to let her soar. What she doesn't realize is that the really brave decision, the decision someone who really had discovered themselves and opened their heart would have made, would be to try to make the marriage work, to actually make some changes rather than giving up and running away. I have asked her several times now, so, you were in this marriage that you hated. What did you do to make it better? The only honest answer I got was I didn't do anything. I gave up. I know that I have changed, that I realized what I did wrong in the marriage and take responsibility for it, and that I was fully prepared to rectify it. I was just beginning to. In fact, when she dropped the D-bomb on me, she can only blame shift and tell herself the fairy story that everything will be okay once she is out of this marriage. Mentally, my line in the sand is when the house is sold and the family broken up. That is the point at which it is irreversible. She may realize before that, she may realize after that point, she may never realize. And as you say, although that is my current line in the sand, I may well have moved on by then myself. I hope so. In some ways, the ideal basis for a relationship going forward would be for everyone to walk away and then voluntarily walk back again to start a whole new relationship based on a whole new way of being. Everyone having realized what they miss. But there has to be a genuine moving on and walking away first. And of course, the likelihood of it happening is pretty low, and hanging on to the hope that it might happen pretty much makes it zero. So, I move on. Meanwhile, she says she sees absolutely nothing wrong with her lying in bed with me texting some other guy for 2 hours. Problem was she married me on the rebound from the love of her life, who, she claims, Her parents prevented her from marrying. I thought she had forgotten that, but maybe not. Or maybe she kept comparing the in-love rush she got during their brief, uncomplicated fling with how she feels about me after 17 years. She seems desperate to feel that again. She is a typical wah who has convinced herself that all her problems will be over as soon as she is rid of me. The fog, and of course, to justify this she has to paint me as the devil incarnate. I'm thinking about buying some horns. Like you, I did things wrong in the marriage. Like you, I was depressed, and that doesn't make for a lot of joy in a relationship. I recognize that, I own it, and I take responsibility for it, even though it was a medical condition. Although she says she is prepared to accept responsibility for what she did wrong, it sounds like in her head she has written herself the perfect victim script. And of course it's all my fault. Wondering whether relationship with OM, the one she texted for 2 hours the other night, is more serious than I thought. Daughter went to see her in bed last night. She was texting again, and incredibly she didn't even stop to comfort a clearly upset daughter. And when the daughter asked her about the other man, it wasn't, "Oh, he's nothing," or "You're more important than him. He's not anything in my life right now," but rather, "I can't discuss it now." Perhaps it really is just a little budding romance, and she is deluded enough to think that she has met her soul mate. Stranger things happen in the Wa fog. But you know what? I really genuinely don't care. I think about it and I don't even get the slightest pang of jealousy. And I am quite a jealous person. I just want to know how it will affect the kids or the settlement. Moving on, here's a bit of an update. A hell of a lot has happened since I last posted. She has filed the D papers on Friday. We were all set to sit down and agree the wording, but she decided to file with a very hurtful series of statements about all my supposed shortcomings, because my lawyers were 12 minutes late in replying to her lawyers. Why does there need to be a deadline anyway if the two sides are genuinely cooperating? I think that she desperately needs her victim story to be the official version, and she was scared that we would get to the court steps first, even though we had no such intention. I realize I've been messing up the whole 180 things. I saw a friend on Thursday night and he told me how angry I seemed. I think that all this time when I have tried to come across as disinterested and moving on with my life, I just looked incredibly angry to her and pushed her away. There were a couple of times when I think she made some very small overtures towards reconciliation when I pushed her away, trying to tough out the 180. Did I screw up and miss my chance? I don't know, and I'll never know, but it's torturing me. She, on the other hand, is doing a perfect 180 on me, moving on with her life. She's not entirely happy though. Kids are gravitating towards me, basically because I am being open and honest with them and treating them like adults, and she is just trying to dictate to them how they should think and feel and not opening up to them at all. Daughter, 15, already knew all about what's going on, but we told the son, 13. Very worried about him as he's in complete denial. I have moved out of the marital bedroom and am now sleeping on mattress on son's floor. I originally refused to move out and she slept on mattress on living room floor for a few nights. I know that many here will tell me I made a mistake, but 1. It's less disruptive for the kids. She was going to switch their rooms over so that she could sleep with daughter in big room. 2. It's one less victim card she can play. Hard to feel too sorry for yourself when you have about a quarter of the entire surface area of the house to yourself between your bedroom and suite bathroom. It really doesn't matter to me too much where I take a shower. 3. It isolates her and brings me closer to the kids. She's gone off for the day, as she did for the whole of last Sunday. Half of me thinks it's one other man and half of me thinks that it's just a social group that she's joined for activities around the city. Again, I know that many on here will tell me to find out. But 1. I don't really see the point. 2. That seems to be against the 180 principles. It explicitly tells you not to spy. And 3. Apart from following her and leaving kids alone, there is no way to find out. And I would almost certainly be spotted following her. My lawyer tells me that she will have to reveal some details of any new relationship fairly soon anyway. So where does that leave us? She is still fully fog-bound, possibly seeing someone else. The dream of that freedom and that great love that is going to come into her life post-divorce is alive and kicking. I am hurting more than ever. Thought I was getting over her, but today it really, really hurts. And the divorce battle looks like it is starting to heat up. She has told the kids she wants them to live with her and only see me every other weekend, so she can go romancing. No doubt, kids want a 50-50 arrangement. So, feeling like an idiot, having messed up 180 and possibly chances for reconciliation, and feeling very low. Today is a bad day, the worst so far, in fact, which has really taken me by surprise. But we all have bad days. Tomorrow will be better. Anyway, just dropped a little guilt bomb into her fog-ridden day out. Whether that is innocent distraction activities with supportive friends or spending the day in bed with someone, I still have no clue. We need to tell our son's school about what is going on, so I just sent her a draft of the email I will send them. She can now spend her afternoon of freedom thinking about the effects of her actions and decisions. Oh. Sorry, forgot it was all my fault in fog land. on our son. Enjoy. I'm going to go hang out with my son whilst she is doing things for herself. Kind of lost that today too. Went to church for the first time in a long time today. I am doing the Alpha course, which frankly isn't doing much for me. So I thought I would go along anyway. I asked my daughter if she would like to go and she said yes to my surprise. Anyway, completely lost it in church. Was sobbing away uncontrollably, don't know why. I don't think I had any kind of come to Jesus moment. Don't feel more spiritual than I did before. But I guess the idea of putting myself in the hands of a higher power who would look after me was quite an emotional one. Upset my daughter to see me like that, of course. But I don't actually think that a bit of emotional honesty is a bad thing. Even strong people hurt, and even strong people cry. I think it takes a bigger person to cry in front of others. My wife, of course, thinks it's weak. Had a self-pitying "don't take my kids away from me" talk tonight. That's her speaking, not me, but whatever. I started off sympathetic, but apparently it would be quite okay for her to take the kids away from me and only allow me to see them 2 weekends a month. But not having her kids live with her would just destroy her. Apparently because she was their mom for 15 years, that means that she is automatically the only one who can meet their needs for the next few years. Even though she has kind of checked out on them over the past 6 months, keeps saying that she has had enough of putting them and me first and needs to do something for herself. And even though they now have a better relationship with me than with her. And apparently whilst she was bringing up the kids, I wasn't doing anything. So doing 60 to 80-hour weeks in soul-destroying jobs to provide for the family was nothing. She won't move out because she can't afford it and because lawyers have told her not to. She is trying to move on with her life, going off and doing all sorts of stuff in secret. Another man. Distraction activities with supportive friends. I have no idea. I pointed out to her yesterday that she was choosing to go out with her friends rather than be with her kids. She has just disappeared the last 2 Sundays and not come back until the evening. She didn't like it but couldn't say much in response because she knows it's true. What I didn't say was that the kids knew that this was her choice, too. Now she's going from the sublime to the ridiculous by being ultra clingy with them, which of course puts them off just as much. She has a support network who naturally buy into her victim story 100%. Work colleagues, family, friends, etc. Does it really matter whether she is seeing someone romantically who is also buying into the victim story? In that regard, I think that it is actually very telling that she dumped her partner when, I am guessing here, it went from lots of sympathy from long distance to a rather more real "I want to be with you." He outlived his usefulness when he actually wanted something from her and wasn't just a cheerleader. I suspect that it is the case with everyone else around her at the moment. I bet her special victim status is giving her a whole lot of attention that she is just lapping up. She may not want to endanger that by being seen to move on too quickly or easily or to be in a relationship that should be making her happy, so that people stop sympathizing. Never thought of it all that way, so thanks for precipitating that thought in my head. But if there is another romance, I don't have the money to hire someone to tail her, and my instinct is not to bother anyway. At this point she regards us as separated and living under the same roof and feels no need at all to remain faithful. Trying to disrupt any romance she is having will just make me look like a complete a-hole and make her look like more of a victim. It also goes against the 180, where don't spy is one of the rules. More effective, I think, is pointing out that time and money spent on any romance is time and money that she is not spending on her kids. I am doing that, too. She has a job and her own money, so cutting support is not viable. However, money is tight for us and she has started spending quite a lot on herself. Again, in her own mind this is striking out for freedom. No doubt in her victim script I have controlled her and stopped her spending money on the things that she deserves. I am thinking of asking her to stop spending so much on herself and preserve her money for the family. But I am trying to cool things down and this would be a very provocative step. It may also have legal implications, so I need to consult my lawyer before I do anything. I had a really good evening this evening. First of all, as I went out, she was clearly dying to know where I was going. I didn't tell her. I enjoyed her being the one who was left wondering. Then I went and did something that I have been meaning to do for some time. I volunteered at a homeless shelter. I have never done anything like that before, but it was both humbling and rewarding. Nothing like spending time with people who are worse off than you but who, in most cases, have humanity and dignity to make you feel less sorry for yourself, and also to show you how so many of the things that we take for granted and think of as permanent are as thin as tissue paper. I have often been grumpy, difficult, and uncommunicative with my wife in the past. Not excusing her actions but taking ownership of my half of the blame ball. And I have been a bit of a Mr. Nice Guy who thought that he had to be nice to everyone in order to deserve their trust, love, attention, and affection. And sometimes I have resented that. And I think that sometimes people picked up that I was being kind on the face of it but without a kind heart. But I am beginning to find myself, and I am finding that I have a genuinely kind heart. At least some of the time. No one is 100% kind all the time. These days I do catch myself being kind because I want to, whereas in the past Mr. Doormat would be kind because I thought that I had to. And I often resented it, and it feels very genuine and very good. All the D stuff still hurts like hell, and this is basically a bit of a diversion away from it, but it is a constructive, healthy diversion. I've made a couple of decisions. First, I'm just not going to worry about her emotional state. If she is trying to make herself feel better by drawing on any small acts of kindness that I may show, then I am not going to worry about it. Wanting her to feel and show remorse for what she did to me. The kids is both attached behaviors. Why should I care what she thinks, feels anymore? And it is dangerously close to putting myself in the victim chair. Detach, detach, detach. Second, as a few people on here have noted, I am a very acute observer who notices everything, and then tries to interpret it. I am going to try to, tone this down a bit. I am going to try to tune in more to what I want to do and to act to please myself a bit more. On other fronts, on the face of it, the 180 does seem to be working. She is definitely starting to approach me in small but significant ways, trying to engage me. But I don't know whether that is just because she just wants to be friends so that she can feel better about what she did. Whether she is just trying to become a more integral part of the family again, having distanced herself from me and the kids over the past few months. Or whether she is actually becoming more interested in me as a man and husband. But I'm not really thinking about it anymore. If she wants something, then she can come out and say what she wants, needs, and ask for it rather than just trying to ingratiate herself. It's no longer my job to try to interpret or meet her needs. Clearly feeling more empowered and stronger this morning than I have felt over the past few days. Just the roller coaster. I can handle it. Onwards and upwards. Oh, she had been trying to get me and the kids out of the house the weekend after Easter so that she could spend some time with other men. I may not be able to go now for reasons that even she would accept are beyond my control. So she says quite barefaced to me, oh, that weekend I might go do something for myself. No shame, and thinks I know nothing about other men. She is already alienating her daughter with all her sneaking around. What is Dee going to think when mom goes away for the weekend and says nothing about where she is going? Or worse still, lies about it. Edit. It's really stupid, but I think one of the things stopping me from walking away is pure pride. It doesn't feel like walking away with dignity, but more like a beaten dog sneaking off to lick its wounds. She rejected me, she is divorcing me, and now I feel like the new big dog has taken my female, and I have been chased off. I know it's stupid and it's a matter of attitude. I need a new one, but can't get past that at the moment. I need to feel that I can walk away tall with my head held high, and despite her behavior, I just don't feel that way at the moment. However, realizing the problem is half the solution. I seem to have turned a corner, but I don't want to count my chickens, etc. in case it is just another up and down on the roller coaster. I had to send STBXW an email yesterday on some legal, financial stuff. Don't want to go into details here. Anyway, Mr. Nice Guy was nervous and even felt a bit guilty when he hit the send button. However, when I saw here briefly yesterday evening, I felt much, much better. Alive, calm, empowered, and as if I was suddenly able to focus on what I want rather than on her reaction. I also feel much clearer about her behavior and about her. No mixed emotions clouding things, and it feels as if I am much closer to being able to walk away. I hope it lasts. Weeks later, she now knows that I know. I referred to other man in a legalistic email that her lawyers had to see. So, she would have had to explain to them all about other man as well as the other man I referred to. An AP from years ago who she vowed never to contact again but is now back in touch with. Exposing to lawyers is, I think, a great strategy because the WS can't avoid the conversation with them and has to be completely honest with them. And they will ask some very direct questions. Of course, I have no idea about my STBXW's discussions with her lawyers. But if a WS has omitted a few inconvenient facts, such as existence of other man, OW, in giving a victim narrative to her lawyers, then it would be very awkward to have to explain to the lawyers that they forgot a few facts that don't paint them in quite such a good light. You would feel so small having to make that sort of admission, and you would just feel that they were silently condemning you. I do hope that she had one of those "why didn't you tell us about this" conversations with her lawyers. So, we had the argument about other men. She just shrugged off any suggestion that she did, or is doing, anything wrong. She is sticking to the "just good friends and I only met him a few weeks ago" lines, as well as the marriage was over a long time ago. But I just didn't bother to tell you, justification. But she knows how hollow this sounds. Deep down she knows the truth, and we all know that that tends to eat away at you. She is very angry with me, of course, and I am getting the full force of her bitterness. And she does bitter like no other person I know. I'm not sure whether this will ever pass, but in the short term I am almost grateful for it, as unrelenting bitterness with not a hint of warmth makes it much easier to detach. Meanwhile, I get the feeling that tensions are already showing with other men. I may be wrong and this may just be wishful thinking, but I am going to back off and let them simmer. Guilt is pretty toxic for a relationship sooner or later. And if I try to do anything, it will just push them together. I will just stir the pot gently by asking how it is going to work with him and the kids, because I am pretty damn sure that he has absolutely zero interest in kids. I think that she has ignored this huge red flag up to now, but I just want to drop it into her head and let it quietly rattle around for a while. I'm just going to put all of this on the shelf now. We have had the other man discussion. She has told me whatever stories she felt she had to tell me. And I know exactly what I think of her and her behavior. No point in going over it again. It's probably harder for her to deal with if I simply don't engage, because she will feel a need to justify herself, either by provoking anger to prove what a nasty man I am, or by repeating her justification lines to me to try to get me to validate these. Full 180, be pleasant, whilst she behaves like a petulant teenager. Move on. With her being so bitter, even the nice guy in me feels absolutely no obligation to consider her at all. Me and the kids are all that count. She can paddle her own canoe. She is far from dumb, and she worked out on her own that there was another man. But so far, other man is a concept, a shadow, and so is easier for her to deal with. She is not yet ready to make it seem far more real by seeing a name and a face. But she knows that she can ask questions about his identity when she is ready. Again, she is bright and intuitive and has worked out that I know. But the details of who, where, and when are not really that important at the end of the day. She knows intuitively what is going on and is reacting to it emotionally. I worked out that one of the things that has made it really hard on me for the past few months has been the feeling of being under constant attack. Attacked when she was shutting me out when all the red flags were going off in the months prior to the D-bomb. Attacked when she had to convince herself that I was the worst sort of man and a terrible husband so she could say to herself that she just had to leave me. Attacked when she submitted a divorce petition with some of the most hateful vitriolic statements my lawyer had seen in divorce papers in a long time. Attacked when she felt guilty. Attacked when the victim narrative started to slip and she panicked. Attacked when the kids, particularly D, turned against her sneaking around and she blamed me for it. Attacked when I exposed her. Attacked when it doesn't seem to be going so well with other men. Attacked now because her life isn't panning out the way she had hoped and it's all my fault. But now that I have worked that out, I can just treat her like a petulant teenager who hits out at any excuse. So today being Sunday, it's the day for STBXW to disappear off with her boyfriend. Didn't even bother to tell me this week. I went to church, and while I was there, she just told the kids she was off and left. It doesn't really bother me unless I start to have more graphic images of them together in my mind. Not necessarily bonding, but intimacy. I'm still finding it hard to come to terms with the fact that they are going for a dirty weekend together in a few weekends' time. And she is still pretending that she is going to see her mother. I'm just thinking that if I try to disrupt or stand in the way of the relationship, it will be futile. I can't keep her locked up, and it will just strengthen their determination to be together. I'm just going to let it run its course and hope that the guilt kills it off, as well as the fact that of course he is attractive because he is the mirror image of me and pours greasy attention over her, but ultimately, they don't have that much in common. That fits in with my general tactic, which is to back off and avoid anger and confrontation with STBXW. It's only once she doesn't feel under attack anymore that she may stop and reflect, and some guilt and remorse may creep in. At this point, I really don't know if she is capable of taking responsibility for anything or for feeling any shame. Well, the wife come clean about the other man and their dirty weekend together. Thinks it's okay because we're getting a divorce. Thinks she deserves happiness no matter what the cost to me or the kids. Still deep in the fog. Says our marriage was horrible for her and that the breakup had nothing to do with other people. Even though she admits to having been on secret dates and set up secret email accounts 6 months ago. Denies that other man was waiting in the wings even though he miraculously appeared a few days after she said she wanted a divorce. My comment. Final ending part coming soon. Check. Hope you enjoy your Sunday night. And see you there.